Really, really good. Proud of you.
Cool.
Really, really nice job.
You're not fully proud, kinda.
I'm
Kinda proud.
Look, pretty quick shot. It was a perfect no, but you made plays, you operated like.
I love when you tell the facts. No, but it's okay. It's okay.
Listen, you did a nice job. Okay. So just take what you learned from tonight, apply to the joint practices, and the next preseason. All right.
You were the real player now. I'm gonna bring that sauce to you.
I know you. Really good job. That's a great start.
Everyone in the football world just saw the Cleveland Browns' dirty laundry, and what we are seeing is nothing less than a war between organizations. People, this is not about football anymore. There are two men with very different ideas about the future of one of the NFL's most troubled teams. This is about power and respect. Andrew Berry, the general manager, is on one side. He is the one who drafted Shedeur Sanders and thinks this kid is the chosen one who will finally break Cleveland's quarterback curse. On the other hand, you have head coach Kevin Stefanski, who just showed the whole world that he either does not believe in his rookie quarterback or is too proud to give credit where it is due. And the place where this war is taking place. A simple game ball that should have been the easiest choice in the world has turned into the most talked about moment of Cleveland's season. What happened in Las Vegas and what happened after that is so much more complicated than what you can see on the surface. Let me paint the whole picture for you. Shedeur Sanders just did something that no other rookie quarterback for the Cleveland Browns had done in almost 30 years. He won his first game as a starter in the NFL. Not at home, where the crowd could cheer him on. Not against a bad team. On the road in Las Vegas against a Raiders team that has played well at home all season. And he didn't just barely win. He was the best in the ways that are most important for a quarterback. 1 sack. Let me say that again so you understand. 1 sack for -3 yards the whole game. That is not just good for a rookie making his first start behind an offensive line that hasn't been very good all season. It's great. It takes veterans years to learn how to be that aware and present in the pocket. Shedeur completed 11 of 20 passes for 209 yards, threw a touchdown, and yes, he did throw an interception. But anyone who watched the game and knows football knows that the interception was more about the receiver running the wrong route than Shedeur making a bad decision. The child was calm. That 52-yard bomb to Isaiah Bond that had people on the floor showed that he had a strong arm. He made a touch on the screen pass that turned into a 66-yard touchdown. He led the huddle and ran the off. He did everything you could want from a rookie quarterback making his first start and then some. The Browns won 24-10 and it wasn't even that close. With 10 sacks, the defense was on fire, but Shedeur gave them the offensive help they had been asking for all season.
Shedeur he's a very impressive young man. He's poised, he's calm, he's smart. You can tell that he's been raised by, really quite honestly, a Hall of Fame dad.
The game is over now. The Browns are happy because they won their first game on the road in a long time. The locker room is full of energy. Players are excited. The energy is off the charts. This is the time when the head coach should acknowledge what just happened, recognize the historic achievement, and give the rookie quarterback a game ball to remember his first NFL win. It is the way things are done. It is about respect. When a quarterback, especially a rookie, wins their first start, every coach in the league does this. Kevin Stefanski, on the other hand, had other ideas. Stefanski walks to the middle of the locker room, holds up the game ball, and with everyone watching and cameras rolling, he says 5 words that will haunt him for the rest of his coaching career. This is for you, Myles Garrett. And just like that, the moment that should have been about Shedeur Sanders celebrating the biggest win of his young career turned into something else entirely. Now let me be very clear about one thing. Myles Garrett really deserved to be recognized. The guy got 5 sacks. That was an amazing show. He was all over that field, making the Raiders' quarterback's life hell and changing the game with his sheer power. No one is saying that Myles Garrett didn't deserve praise, but this is what people are saying. You can have more than one ball for your game. You can tell who different players are, And when your rookie quarterback just made history for your team by ending a 17-game losing streak for first-time Browns starters, and he was the first rookie to win his first game for your team since 1995, that kid deserves his moment too. But Stefanski didn't give it to him.
Listen, we trust all of our guys. We trust our guys to perform. He's no different. And playing a backup quarterback role, as we've talked about over the years, that's tough to come in there. But we trust him. I know there's things that he's going to want to do better, but that's why we work.
The NFL world noticed right away. On his podcast, Shannon Sharpe completely tore Stefanski apart for this choice. The news coverage was terrible. People were all over social media calling out the disrespect. People who don't follow the Browns closely were asking the same thing. What was Stefanski thinking? What do you do to not give that kid a game ball? And the answers people came up with were not good for the head coach. Some people said he was jealous of the attention Shedeur gets because of his name. Some people said he was angry that the front office made him take Shedeur. Some people said he really doesn't believe in Shedeur and was trying to say that winning one game doesn't change anything. No matter what the reason was, the optics were terrible. But this is where the story gets a lot more interesting than just a coach making a bad choice. While Kevin Stefanski was in the locker room giving the game ball to Myles Garrett and basically ignoring Shedeur's achievement, there was another powerful person in the same room watching everything happen. Andrew Berry is the Cleveland Browns general manager. He is the one who really has the power to make personnel decisions. He is the one who drafted Shedeur Sanders and put his reputation on the line by taking him in the 5th round. Berry's reaction to what he saw was very different from what his head coach told him. Several people who were in the locker room after the game ball presentation said that Andrew Berry went straight to Shedeur Sanders and hugged him in a way that said a lot. Not a handshake, a pat on the shoulder, or a quick congratulations. The kind of hug that says, "I'm proud of you, I believe in you, and I don't care what anyone else in this building thinks."
Every game you go into it, trying to just highlight guys. Miles got a game ball. I thought it was probably pretty worthy. But you're just constantly trying to recognize your guys. We spent time this morning as well pointing out all of our guys and the jobs they did. Point out Gage having a big punt return, which was huge for our team. Your D-line doesn't get 10 sacks unless the coverage is really good. Obviously, a rookie starting his first game on the road, getting a win is huge. So you acknowledge all that with your team.
Kevin, before...
And people did notice. Oh, they definitely saw it. Because Andrew Berry was doing something that Kevin Stefanski wouldn't do at that moment. He was giving his rookie quarterback the respect, recognition, and support that every young player needs, especially after doing something important. Berry was sending a message to everyone in the organization and everyone who was watching. Not just Shedeur. This is my man. I wrote him. I believe in him. And will support him no matter what the coaching staff says. That hug was the opposite of Stefanski's decision to give the game ball. It showed that some people in the Browns organization really think that Shedeur Sanders is the future. And it proved what people in the know have been talking about for weeks. There is a big disagreement in Cleveland about Shedeur Sanders, and it is causing problems in the organization that could tear this franchise apart if they don't fix it right away. Kevin Stefanski had to know the questions were coming at Monday's press conference. He had to know that every reporter in the room would ask about the game ball issue. He had to know that everyone in the NFL was waiting for him to explain. And this was his chance to make things right, to clear up his mind and maybe even say he should have done things differently. He made it worse instead. So much worse.
I don't know where that report came from. That's not a request that we made. That being said, I want to be clear, that would have no bearing in terms, whether he participated or not, that has no bearing in terms of how we think of it, but I don't know where that came from.
The reporter asked the question directly, why didn't you give Shedeur Sanders a game ball after the game? It is a simple question that needs a simple answer. But what does Stefanski do? He starts talking in circles about how they always try to highlight players in every game, how they always recognize players, and how Myles Garrett's performance was probably good enough to get a game ball. He says that morning he spent time talking about all the guys who did a good job. He talks about a big return by a punt returner. He talks about everything but the question itself. But this is the most important part, the part that makes people really angry. Kevin Stefanski doesn't even mention Shedeur Sanders' name in that whole answer. Not even once. The reporter asked about Shedeur by name. Stefanski only called him a rookie and the quarterback in his response. There was no name, no personal recognition. Just generic impersonal coach talk that made me feel colder than Lake Erie in January. Take a moment to think about that. Your first career quarterback just set a record for the team. Reporters are asking you about him and you can't even say his name when you talk about how well he did. That is not just a mistake. That is not just being careful with what you say. That is on purpose. That is an option. That choice made it clear to everyone watching how Kevin Stefanski really feels about Shedeur Sanders, no matter what politically correct things he might say in other situations. That press conference was a lot of fun for people who study body language. Stefanski looked nervous and fidgety, like he knew he was in trouble and was doing everything he could to avoid making it worse while also refusing to just admit he messed up. His answers sounded rehearsed, but not in a good way. They seemed like people who had been taught by PR people how to avoid giving direct answers and deflect questions. And in today's NFL, where fans can tell when someone is lying from a mile away, that kind of performance only made things worse. Now we need to talk about what is really going on behind the scenes in Cleveland. This argument over the game ball is just a sign of a much bigger problem. Stephen Smith and a number of other people who know people in the Browns organization say that there is a real disagreement between the front office and the coaching staff over Shedeur Sanders. And it is not hard to see. The GM, Andrew Berry, is all in on Shedeur. He thinks this kid is the solution to Cleveland's long-running quarterback problem. He sees the arm strength, the confidence, the background, and the mental toughness. He saw Shedeur do well at Jackson State and Colorado, even though he was under a lot of stress and criticism all the time. He saw something in the time before the draft that made him feel good about taking Shedeur in the 5th round. Berry's belief has only grown stronger now that Shedeur has actually played on the field and shown that he can play at this level, even though some other teams were worried. But word is that Kevin Stefanski and his offensive coordinator don't believe. At best, they see Shedeur as a project. At worst, they see him as a distraction. They didn't want him, they wanted to stick with Dillon Gabriel, their 3rd-round pick, because he fits the mold that Stefanski likes better. Gabriel doesn't have the same name recognition, media attention, or famous father hanging around. He is safer. You can control him better. He fits into Stefanski's system without needing the system to change for him. And when the front office basically made Stefanski give Shedeur a real chance after Gabriel got hurt, the coach had to go along with it, but he never really cared about it. In this context, the game ball controversy is a lot more important than just one event. Stefanski didn't forget to give Shedeur a game ball or make a mistake in the heat of the moment. That choice showed how he really felt about Shedeur. When you really believe in your quarterback and are really happy with what he just did, giving him a game ball is the most natural thing to do. But if you're not sure, if you're looking for reasons why the win doesn't really mean anything, or if you want to make sure everyone knows the defense was the real reason you won, then you do what Stefanski did. You give the game ball to the defensive star and don't even say thank you to quarterback who just made history. Andrew Berry sees all of this, though. He isn't dumb. He knows what is going on. He can tell the difference between how Stefanski talks about Shedeur and how he talks about Baker Mayfield or even Dillon Gabriel. He can see that people aren't excited, that they don't want to fully commit, and that they hedge and qualify every time they have to say something nice. Berry is watching the coach he hired and backed through many tough seasons basically work against the quarterback he drafted. That can't last forever. Something has to change. That hug in the locker room wasn't just a nice thing for a GM and his player to do. Andrew Berry was the one who drew the line in the sand. It was him saying in public where he stands on this split in the organization. And don't get it wrong, when a GM and a head coach fight for power, the GM usually wins. General managers have a better chance of keeping their jobs. They are in charge of the roster. They choose who gets drafted and who doesn't. It is much easier to fire and hire new coaches than it is to fire and hire new GMs, especially when the GM has the owner's support, which Barry seems to have in Jimmy Haslam. Now we have this really messed up situation where the Browns front office and coaching staff don't agree on the most important position in sports. Barry wants to build around Shedeur and give him time to grow into the franchise quarterback he thinks he can be. He wants to give him weapons and let him grow into that role. Stefanski wants to be careful about how he handles the situation, not make too many public promises to Shedeur, and keep his options open in case things don't work out. Those two methods are fundamentally incompatible, and they are causing the kind of instability and uncertainty that can ruin young quarterbacks. Let's talk about what Stefanski really said about Shedeur's performance, because even when he tried to be positive, it felt empty and forced. He said that he talked to all the quarterbacks about how to move around in the pocket and how to use the pocket. He said that Shedeur can make plays both inside and outside of the pocket. He liked that they only gave up 1 sack. He said it was a really good outing. That all sounds good on the surface, but how do other coaches in the league talk about their rookie quarterbacks after big wins? When C.J. Stroud was a rookie winning games, DeMeco Ryans was singing his praises from the rooftops, calling him special and talking about how mature and calm he was. Kyle Shanahan couldn't stop talking about how smart and competitive Brock Purdy was when he was leading the 49ers. That is how relationships between quarterbacks and coaches should be. Respect for each other, support from the public, and real excitement. Stefanski is giving Shedeur the least amount of help possible. It is the kind of praise you give to a backup who came in and didn't make a fool of himself, not the kind you give to a rookie who just made history for the team. And everyone watching can see that difference, especially Shedeur himself. You think he doesn't know that his head coach won't even say his name in front of the media? Do you really think he doesn't notice how different Andrew Barry and Kevin Stefanski treat him? He knows he's not dumb, of course. The question now is, how long can he do well in a place where his own head coach doesn't seem to want to help him? When you really think about it, Stefanski's excuse for trying to make multiple guys stand out doesn't hold up. Yes, football is the best sport for teams. Yes, it is never just one person who wins. But there are times when that general rule doesn't apply. A rookie quarterback winning his first NFL game after your team hasn't had a rookie win a game in almost 30 years. That is one of those times that should be remembered in a special way, and the fact that Stefanski didn't see that or chose not to do anything about it shows either a lack of awareness or a deliberate refusal to do anything. Neither of them looks good. What makes this even more annoying is that Shedeur acted very maturely in class. He didn't say anything bad about not getting a game ball in public. He didn't talk bad about his coach on social media. He didn't make a scene or make it about him. He kept his mind on the team, talked about how he wanted to get better, and stressed that winning was the most important thing. That is the kind of professionalism and team-first attitude you want in your franchise quarterback. And that makes how Stefanski treated him look even worse. This kid is doing everything right, both on the field and off of it, and his coach still can't fully support him. This is a good example of how Stefanski dealt with Dillon Gabriel. Stefanski had no problem saying that Gabriel was the clear starter when he was having trouble, when the offense wasn't going anywhere, and when they were losing games with him at quarterback. There was no evaluation period, no week-to-week decisions, just unconditional support right away. But now that Shedeur has won, it is all about being careful and not getting ahead of ourselves and needing to see more. People are questioning Stefanski's motives and judgment because of that clear double standard. This is what I think is really going on, and this is just my opinion based on what I have seen happen. Kevin Stefanski is a good coach who has done well in Cleveland, but he also likes things to be in order and under control. He wants quarterbacks who fit well into his system and don't make him change how he does things. Stefanski can't fully control Shedeur Sanders, who has a lot of talent, confidence, and fame. When you coach Deion Sanders' son, there will always be noise from the outside. People will always look at things critically and give their opinions, and they will always second-guess your choices, and I think Stefanski doesn't like that. I think he doesn't like how the front office made Shedeur happen. If Shedeur does well, people will give Andrew Berry credit for drafting him instead of Stefanski credit for developing him. I think he is angry about this, and all of that anger is showing in how he treats his new quarterback. But this way of thinking has a problem. As the head coach, your job is to help your players do well, not to make decisions based on how you feel or how much power you want. Stefanski's job is to help Shedeur Sanders reach his full potential if Andrew Berry drafted him and thinks he is the future. Fighting against that, even if you don't mean to, only hurts the team and could end a talented young quarterback's career. If Stefanski can't get over whatever problems he has with Shedeur and fully commit to making this work, Andrew Berry will have to decide whether his coach is part of the problem or part of the solution. The next few weeks are very important for everyone. Shedeur will have more start. He will have to deal with tougher defenses. Rookie quarterbacks have trouble in some games, and that is normal. How Kevin Stefanski deals with those problems will show us everything we need to know about whether this relationship can last. If Shedeur has a bad game and Stefanski pulls him right away or starts to hedge on his status, that will prove that everyone was right to think that the coach never really believed in him and was just looking for a reason to move on. But if Stefanski really backs him up during the tough times, teaches him, and shows some faith and patience, then maybe this can work. Andrew Berry has made his point clear. That hug said it all. He is going with Shedeur Sanders. No matter what the coaches say, he believes in this kid and will back him up. And if it comes down to it, Berry can make changes if this rift keeps getting worse and becomes too much to handle. He has the power to fire coaches. He can hire an offensive coordinator who really believes in Shedeur. If it becomes clear that the coach is holding back the quarterback, he can even replace Stefanski. That might sound extreme, but these are the kinds of choices GMs have to make when there is a big disagreement about where the team is going. It is easy for Shedeur to do what he needs to do now. Play on. Keep winning. Like he has done his whole life, keep proving the doubters wrong. Every successful snap, every win, and every impressive throw makes it harder for Stefanski to explain why he is skeptical and easier for Berry to build the team around him. Since high school, Shedeur has had to deal with people who don't believe in him and don't respect him. Because of his last name, people often don't think much of him. He is used to having to prove himself again and again. This is just another challenge in a long line of challenges he has already faced. And this is what I really think. Kevin Stefanski doesn't want to fully support Shedeur Sanders, but he will do well in Cleveland anyway. Not because of it. He has too much talent, too much ambition, and too much to prove. He has a GM who trusts him and an owner who seems to be happy with him. His teammates, like Myles Garrett, respect his game and want him to do well. That is enough to get started. It would be better if his head coach was completely on board. But Shedeur will find a way anyway. The main question is whether the Browns can fix their problems before they get worse. They have a talented young quarterback, a strong defense, and a GM with a plan, but their head coach seems to be working against his own quarterback, whether he means to or not. And that is a recipe for disaster if it is not dealt with right away. Someone in that building, most likely Jimmy Haslam, needs to talk to Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry and make sure everyone is on the same page. They need to make it clear that Shedeur Sanders is the franchise quarterback for the future and that everyone in the organization, from the head coach to the equipment managers, needs to be on board with helping him succeed. Anything less than that is bad for the organization.